Hey y'all, this is Austin from Brasington's Adventure Outfitters. Going to show you how to put together a overnight or 3-day backpacking kit. Now, we'll preface this to say that this is not the only way to pack a 3-day kit for a backpacking trip. However, this is the method and materials that I would like to see in my own kit going on a 3-day trip. Like I said before, there's more than one way to pack a pack, and this is the one I favor the most. The first thing you want to do is do what we did here. This is a commonly called a shakedown. You want to be able to lay out everything that you anticipate needing on your 3-day trip so that you can easily and visually see what you have and what you don't have. As you can see, I've separated my clothing over here all the way into more my sleep gear and essentials like my boots. The second thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to divide my gear into things that I'm going to need when I get to a camping site, things I'm going to be wearing while I'm hiking, and then backup products that I'm going to need if, say, the clothing I'm wearing gets soaking wet, if my socks become unusable, and things of that nature. Also, I am taking a dog with me, so I've got some of his gear over here, and I'll show you how I'm going to separate that in a minute. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick apart things that I know that I'm going to be wearing while I'm hiking. So these may not be the items I'm going to be wearing while I'm driving to the trailhead, but are going to be things I'm going to be changing into. So I can already separate those from my pack. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull things like my boots, okay, my sun hat or ball cap. I'm going to pull things like the shirt I'm going to be wearing, so a nice sunproof shirt. Oh, and I should mention that I've checked the weather before I've left my home so that I know I can bring the appropriate clothing. So for this trip, we're going to somewhere, say, the Southern Appalachian Trail in the summertime, and so I'm really not going to need anything more than this in the daytime. It's a kind of just a sunproof shirt, and it's a t-shirt. And then my pants, and then a nice pair of ex officio boxers, and then one pair of socks. So this is gear I know I'm going to be bringing with me. Oh yeah, and my Spyderco pocket knife. And I'm just visually looking to see if I forgot anything else. I don't see anything. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to prioritize gear that goes in the bottom of my pack. That's gear that I'm not going to need to access throughout the day. And then gear that I'm going to need, say, if it starts to rain, if I need to do first aid on my climbing or hiking partner, things like that. So I'm going to pick apart things like, this is my Nemo sleeping pad, okay? And because I am hammock camping, my tent system is going to be an Eno hammock, a fly, and if I've looked at the weather and it looks like it's going to be very, very wet, I may also think about bringing a mosquito net, because I know that post a large amount of rain, we have a lot of standing water. I know there's going to be a lot of mosquitoes. Okay, and the third thing, a pillow. And this is my Nemo pillow. And a lot of these pillows are actually self-inflating, okay, like this one, and can be deflated somehow. Whatever. So I've got a nice pack, okay, around 60 liters. I've gotten away with a lot less, and you'll see a lot of people on the trail probably with packs around the 40-liter range, and it's very possible to do a 40-liter kit when you're just doing a few overnights. In fact, some people do the whole Appalachian Trail in packs around 40 or 35 liters. So I'm going to start with my tent system, okay, and my sleeping bag. And I've chosen to bring a 55-degree sleeping bag because I know in the Southern Appalachians and around the summertime, it has the potential to get down into the 40s at night, especially if you're on a very exposed part of the trail. But I feel comfortable bringing a 55-degree bag because I know I'm going to be bringing extra things like a base layer, bottom and top, and I'm a pretty warm sleeper, so I don't really feel like I need a warmer bag. So I'm going to pack that at the bottom, and a compression sack helps no matter how big or how warm your sleeping bag is, okay? And my sleeping pad. I'm going to shove these straight to the bottom. If you notice, this pack has a sleeping bag compartment or a boot compartment, and it has an additional zipper here that you can actually inspect your sleeping bag compartment. And then it usually has a shelf between the main compartment and the sleeping bag compartment. I personally like to take the shelf out because I feel like I want to use all the space in the bag, and only filling the bottom part of your pack halfway is actually pretty uncomfortable. When you're packing any pack, you want to make sure that it is uniformly packed so that it's like a big tube and your pack isn't very, very lumpy. So I'm going to zip that back up. Okay, I've got my Etowah Outfitters or Etowah gear rain fly because I know it's going to be very wet, especially at night when the dew is settling on the ground. Okay, and then I have a couple choices here. I know my dog likes to carry a lot of things like any other dog. When you give him a job, he loves to do it. But his pack really isn't big enough to carry all of his gear. So I'm going to be very nice. I bring actually a bachelor pad from Roughwear. It's actually a dog bed, and I pack that with my gear because I have the extra space and I don't mind carrying it, and my dog will appreciate it. Okay, so that really takes care of, oh yeah, and one more thing. This is my JetBoil stove. The stove actually fits inside this container here, which holds about 2 cups of water, and then my fuel actually will pack down with it, okay? And so I can put that in my gear as well. So my pack's starting to look pretty full, okay? And with the last amount of space I have in my pack, I want to pack things that I know that I will need in a pinch or need to say if it starts to rain. And so I'm going to look at things like, I'm going to set aside my rain gear, okay? Primarily the jacket, because if it's too warm, I may not even put the pants on. Typically, I don't know, it's hit or miss with me if I decide to bring rain pants or not. Typically, I'm wearing a pair of zip-off shorts or zip-off long pants, so I can change between long pants and shorts. And I usually bring a pair of gaiters with me so that if it does start to rain, I'm not going to get water in my boots. But a pair of rain pants isn't a bad idea. I usually pack this more towards the bottom. But I definitely make sure that things like my rain jacket, okay, and pack cover are at the top, along with a very extensive first aid kit. And first aid kits are covered in another video. If you'd like to learn how to build yourself a first aid kit, that can be in another video. Okay, so I want to put those aside because I knew those are going to go on top. In addition, what you don't see here is my food. And everybody, when they pack their packs, are unsure where to put their food. I usually use common sense. If it's dinners and breakfasts that I'm going to eat much, much later in the trip, I'm going to put those at the bottom. If it's lunches and snacks, I'm going to put those right at the top. Or this pack comes with a hip belt, so I can put some Cliff Bars, Power Bars, Gorp in the top pouch, and that'd be pretty great. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? I want to keep toilet paper towards the top. This is dog gear. Okay. And what I see here is I have a lot of water-sensitive products here that I want to make sure that I take care of. And so I usually bring a nice compression sack that also doubles as a dry bag. And I'll put things like my pack towel in here, as long as it's not wet, of course. If it's wet, then I usually put it in this outermost pocket here where it can dry. Okay. I'll put things like my extra boxers, because no one wants to put it on an extra wet pair of boxers. The headlamp's pretty variable. These headlamps from Black Diamond are actually water resistant. So I can typically put them in here if I'm worried about it being a really wet day and I don't anticipate hiking into the night. However, I sometimes will put this headlamp in the brain of my pack, which is the topmost portion. But for right now, I'm going to put it in my dry bag because I don't think I'm going to be hiking into the night too much. And then I will put this with that. Now, the toilet paper is another item that you can't go without. I typically, for a 3-day trip, will take about a quarter of this. This is a full roll that we stole from our bathroom here at the shop. But what I would typically do is I'll actually take out, you can actually pull out the center part of this toilet paper roll, and then, or you can just kind of take off enough toilet paper to satisfy your own needs. For me, I mean, I typically don't have a bowel movement twice or more times a day, so I typically bring about a quarter roll for a 4-day trip, and I'm fine. However, if you are the type that are extremely regular, you may want to take the whole roll. But I want to make sure this is dry because wet toilet paper is really useless. And I will say that for demonstration purposes, we're using the toilet paper that you would buy from a department store. However, it's a good idea, and it's a good idea to be a good steward of the environment if you were to bring biodegradable toilet paper, unless you are planning on hiking your toilet paper out. In fact, a lot of state parks out west, you're expected to actually not only hike out your toilet paper, but also hike out your wastes as well. And they'll typically give you blue bags for this purpose, especially if you're hiking in an area like on a glacier where you don't really have a whole lot of coverage or a whole lot of places to dispose of your waste. So you have to keep that in mind when you're packing a pack. What are the rules of the area I'm going to? Do they require that I blue bag all of my wastes? And do I need to bring biodegradable toilet paper? Okay. So I want to make sure this is dry. I usually put it somewhere like a separate compression sack that's dry, like a dry bag, or a lock sack or something like that. That works really well. And I don't really see anything else I need to save here, so I'm going to go ahead and compress and roll this thing down. Oh, I did forget something. I forgot my extra socks. So I want to make sure that these are dry. And that's about it, really. You know, because I'm taking a pack cover, I'm not worried about things like this. There's a lot of people out there that don't like using a pack cover, and the reason being, if you're in an area with a lot of wind, a pack cover can be pretty annoying. So putting these in a dry sack instead of using a pack cover works really well too. But because I have a pack cover, I'm not going to worry about these. I'm going to use these extra base layers to kind of push around the gear that's already in my pack to try to make it more uniform. Okay. And then the trowel, okay, I want that easily accessible, and because you're digging a poo hole for yourself, you don't want that kind of mixing around with your kind of nicer textiles. Okay, and my next few things are products that I'm going to need in case of an emergency. So that's going to include a water filter, bug repellent, first aid kit, my rain parka or jacket. I really don't typically take binoculars, but if you're one of those people who like to watch wildlife, you can use binoculars. I'll kind of put that at the top. I'll put this away. And because I said that I usually take some gaiters, and if it's going to rain and be hot, I'd rather just wear a jacket and not worry about the rain pants, because my quick dry pants can dry out. So I'm going to stuff this kind of down in the corner so that it fills in my pack. The last few things that I have are things like the spork. This is a flint and steel striker and a magnesium bar. Really good alternative option for starting fires. Pretty sweet to have on the trail. I'll kind of probably put this in the brain of my pack. So if you look on this pack here, okay, it's got a couple pockets on the brain. This is your expandable lid. This is one pocket on the brain. You have a second pocket on the brain over here, or pack lid if you want to call it that. I would typically put smaller things on here. The biggest problem with people who don't hike a lot is putting too much up here. Put too much up here, it can really weigh down on your shoulders. So you really want to reserve these pockets for things like a map, which these maps typically are water resistant, but it's also a good idea to put these in a lock sack or a dry bag of some sort, or a map protector. Or you can get this kind of paint stuff that you paint over the map to make it waterproof. I put things like sunscreen because, believe it or not, you know, you can get sunscreen at other places besides the beach. So having a small thing of sunscreen is great. I typically bring around SPF 30 to put on my face. These are gear repair patches, and they're really light enough to put in the brain, and it really helps me kind of know where they are to put them up there. And then mosquito repellent, that's pretty self-explanatory. And other small ditty things I can just put in here to save on space. Now I'll reserve the last bit for gear like, okay, my essentials. I'm going to start by packing my first aid kit pretty near the top because I want to be able to access that very quickly if one of my partners gets injured. My water filter is going to be next. This is an inline water filter from Sawyer, and I've got a few other parts to add to it over there, but I'm just going to show it to you right now. There's several different water filters. Some people for 3-day trips don't have a problem with bringing just tablets or chemical ways to treat your water. And then I'm going to put my rain jacket, okay? Now, I'm typically the kind of guy who likes to cram his gear into his pack because I feel like it helps fill the pack out a little better. Well, the rain jacket is something I do like to kind of take care of. So what I'll do is I'll just fold the sleeves in, and then I'll just roll the bottom of this rain jacket to the top and kind of stash it in the hood. And so that's a good way to store a rain jacket. Put that right at the top and a pack cover because it starts to rain. That's pretty much everything that I'm going to need gear-wise. What I don't have in here is water and food, which are definitely essentials. Now, typically, we'll have a water bladder back here, but if you're hiking somewhere where you know it's going to be really cold, freezing for the majority of the trip, you may not have, you may not be able to use a water bladder because they freeze very easily. Because if you think about it, the hose is very exposed to the elements. So what I'll usually bring is a couple Nalgene's. Now, in the summertime, you don't have to worry about this. I usually bring about 2 Nalgene's regardless. But if you know you were hiking in really, really cold weather, you may want to do a couple of things. You can get Nalgene koozies, okay, that really are what they sound like. They're koozies that go around your Nalgene. Or what I find helps is making sure that your lid is sealed, there's no ice around the lid, and then storing your Nalgene upside down. I don't really know the physics behind this, but I feel like the water is more apt to freeze up here, okay, and then this freezes last, so you're still able to open your bottle. And this is, if you're wondering, glow-in-the-dark Nalgene, which is pretty sweet. And so this pack has places to put the Nalgenes. My binoculars, like I said, I don't typically take binoculars, but this pack has a really nice kind of pocket on the waist belt where I can kind of try to fit my binoculars, and it fits okay. I typically save these pockets for things like a compass, a manual compass, because GPSs batteries can fail, or some people, frankly, don't know how to use them. So if you don't know how to use a piece of gear, I don't recommend you bringing it out on your first 3-day hiking trip. And then that basically leaves gear for my dog. And when you're taking an animal, you really have to pay attention to the welfare of that animal. In particular, you have to make sure you bring enough food and you bring enough water, and you watch things on your dog that really don't come natural to us, because most of us have dogs in the backyard or living with us in the house. You have to understand that when a dog is hiking out on a rough trail like the Appalachian Trail, the paws and pads of their feet can actually become damaged. You want to make sure you bring enough salve or ointment or soap, and make sure you watch the dog's feet as well. But I don't add anything to my dog's pack that isn't his stuff. So what some people I've seen do is they add gear to the dog's satchels here, and I don't know how you stand on that, but I usually don't put anything in here but my dog's food and water. Now, Roughwear has this pack that comes with these water containers, and they're really good to put fresh water, but I will say if you walk with your dog off leash, and you should only do that if your dog's well trained, that the dogs are going to drink whatever water is available to them. And yes, dogs can get the same parasitic diseases that people can, like Giardia and Crypto, but they're not as frequent. Okay, as I was saying, after we've packed up our dog's things with his food and his water and his food bowl and water bowl, okay, I just want to finish up a few things in the pack. In the past, I've taken pillows that are very similar to this Nemo pillow. Some of them are just soft skin pillows that don't absorb any water potentially if you get your pack soaking wet. This one, however, does have some memory foam in here, and I'm worried about it getting wet. So what I would do is if I was packing this pack for real, okay, I would definitely add a waterproof stuff sack to this item and maybe combine my my extra base layers with this as well, and pack this fairly towards the bottom because I know I'm not going to need it until I start setting up my camp. Okay, so after packing this pack, I can think of a few things that I would want to add. One thing that we didn't add in this pack that I'd like to see would be a bear rope. And a bear rope is simply an accessory cord that's about 3 millimeters in diameter and about 25 to 50 feet long. It's something that you can hang a bear bag with when you're at the campsite. And typically that goes somewhere towards the bottom of your pack. However, it could technically go, since my bottom of my pack's pretty full, if it doesn't fit in there, it can definitely go up here. I'm sure I'm forgetting other things, but since I'm not actually taking this pack out tomorrow, I'm not thinking of them right now. So hopefully that was at least a start for some of you who want to get into backpacking. Maybe some of you have already been backpacking and just wanted a little extra advice. But that's typically what we would recommend for about a 3-day backpacking trip. Thank you for watching. This is Austin from Brasington's Adventure Outfitters. Have a good one.